Welcome to the Create Today podcast. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, certified Rapid Transformational Therapist and hypnotherapist. And my passion is helping women heal from the past and learn how to create the life they love one day at a time. And this show is all about how you can do just that in any area of your life that matters to you. Health, finances, business, or relationships. I believe that everyone's story matters because every story can help someone else. Thanks so much for being here. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, and my beautiful guest is Allison Wood. She's a coach and an author. Her book is called The Chain Breaker. It Stopped With Me. Thank you so much for being here, Allison. I'm super excited about this.
Oh, Karen, thank you. I am excited. This is such a treat for me.
I love it. So I want to hear about your journey through life and how it led you to, let's start with writing a book.
Well, I always knew that I was going to write a book.
You did?
Yeah, I did. My whole life, because of the experiences that I had and the trauma that I went through, I felt like there is a reason why I've been going through this. I need to be able to help people. Yeah. And the only avenue that I felt like then was to get it in black and white, get it on print, get it out there to the masses, because I know that my story is not unique. And I just had this huge desire, this huge passion to help people because of what I went through.
When you say what you went through, what age were you? I'm sure you went through a lot of things, but what was the most challenging thing that you went through that really said, I need to help people that have gone through this?
Well, I grew up with it, so it was from birth. But my earliest memory of it was probably, right around 5-ish. My dad was a severe alcoholic, and he was extremely abusive in all aspects of the word abuse. And it was my life. And I kind of put on this mask because I did not want the world to know and see what my life was like behind closed doors. And so when I was out in the world with my friends, living life, doing things, no one knew what was going on at home. No one knew. I mean, there was a small handful of family members, like my grandparents, aunts and uncles and things like that, because we would flee to them when the events were happening. But that's the only people that would know. And I did a really, really, really good job at hiding it. And even today, after the book came out, my great friends that I've had since 10, 12 years old, they actually felt like they were not good friends because they didn't know what I was going through. But I've just reassured them that it was me, that I did such a good job at putting on this whole persona, and that's what was my goal, and I achieved it. Wow. But now later, I just thought that was such a waste of energy that I need to help people. I need to help people understand that the things that we go through and our entire past does not define who we are today.
Right. It's really interesting. I had not the same abuse or not the same situation per se, but why do you think that we are almost programmed to keep the things that are really we're struggling with, keep them hidden? Why do you think we do that?
I personally feel like, for myself, I wanted to feel like I was normal, whatever that definition of normal is. I wanted to be like everybody else, where, I was daddy's little girl, and we went on family vacations, and there was laughter and joy and singing in our home. And I wanted those things, and so I pretended that that's how my life was. And I think a lot of it too, looking back as I become an adult and I've learned a massive amount along the way, that I was also protecting my parents.
Did your mom also protect the quote family secret? Do you think that it was kind of like a group, as a group, you kind of united in let's pretend that there's nothing going on right now?
Yes, absolutely. She did. Yeah. Going to church. I mean, the main events happened on a Saturday evening. It was notorious. Every Saturday night, we knew what our life was going to be like. If we didn't leave, we would face it. And so the next morning was church. And so we would go to church, my mother, and I have a brother and a sister. And so the four of us would go, and it was like our world was like everybody else that was sitting there on the church pews. Nothing was different. So we all had it mastered.
Did you feel like you had it? Did you feel like you had a realization at a certain point where you went, I am hiding this and I wish I weren't, or I wish I would do something different? Did you ever have that, gosh, I wish I could speak up or talk to somebody about it?
Not until I was married and had children. Yes, because I wanted so badly to fit in.
Yeah.
And I was embarrassed. You know, why do I have this life? Why is my life like this? I was really humiliated and embarrassed and just didn't want anybody to know. And then I started dealing with things when I got married, that things started surfacing and things started coming out. And that's when I sought out therapy. I thought, I have got to get this figured out.
Yeah. Did you open up to your husband before you got married?
No.
You told him after.
So I was married twice. So my first husband is when most of it started coming out, because, you know, when you start getting intimate, all these things start coming out that I had no idea what I was battling.
Wow.
And I didn't know. I just didn't know. And so I just kept pushing it down and pushing it down. You know, this is normal. This is how life is. All these rationalizations just kept coming out in my brain. And then that one ended after 7 years, and for good reason. I mean, I was not prepared. And, but my second husband, I opened up to him and let him know what was going on. And he was extremely supportive. Let's get you help. Let's get this figured out.
Yeah. That's amazing. And then what was the process like? I feel like in my own experience, writing a book is very cathartic. It's almost like therapy, writing it all out. What was the process like for you? What kind of emotions came up as you were literally writing?
That's a really great question. It was such a journey of healing. You know, there is something about putting pen to paper, so to speak. Obviously, I was on my computer, but it becomes tangible. And I was going through therapy at the time as I was writing it, and both of my parents had passed. I knew that I had to wait until they passed.
You did.
For my own well-being, just for me personally, because I didn't want to cause any more hurt and pain to what they've already gone through. And going through therapy and discovering things, I came to the huge realization as to why it happened, why my father was the way he was. Not intentionally, but because of what he went through, you know? And so,
did you discover those things later? Did anybody tell you what he went through? How did you find out
about them?
Oh, you knew?
You know, little bits and pieces were talked about. He didn't have a relationship with his own father. His father had left at a very early age, and there was just distaste. I had never even met him, my grandfather, because my father never saw him either.
Wow.
And so, but later, my mom would tell me more after my dad had passed. She opened up a lot. And I think that her reasonings were she didn't want to cloud my judgment about my father. And, but it was actually really helpful to learn the background from where he came from.
Right.
Because, you know, we only come with our own set of tools.
Right.
You know, that we were given along the way.
No. We only know what we know.
Right.
So he died pretty young.
No, he was in his 80s.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in his 80s. They both were.
Did he ever recover from alcoholism?
He did. I don't know if the word recover actually is the word. I mean, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, right? But when I was 18, he, you know, was still going out on his binges, and my mom just, she gave them an ultimatum at the time. I mean, she had left him. They got back together. I'm assuming she gave him many ultimatums.
Probably.
And he made many promises that were broken. But when I was 18, my brother and sister are 5 and 4 years older than I am. So they were both married, living their own lives. I was going to college. So she knew she didn't need his financial support, whatever that looked like. And she told him. And I, from what I gather, very severely told him, very, firm. And that's when he stopped.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't go to AA, at least not to my knowledge. I mean, we didn't talk about things. Nothing was talked about growing up.
Wow.
But he stopped. So after that, there was never a day that he drank after that when I was 18. But I got married when I was 18 as well, so.
Wow. So you didn't necessarily reap the, quote, benefits of having a sober dad.
Correct.
You didn't stop until you were out of the house.
Right.
Going back to, I didn't even let you answer the first question. So let's talk about, go back to the process of writing that book. You're in therapy, you're putting the pen to paper. I want you to talk more about that.
Okay, so that was really interesting because as a thought would come to my mind, you know, throughout the years, I mentioned previously that I knew I would eventually write this story. So I had thoughts that I had jotted down, whether it be in my phone or in a journal or whatever. So I had gathered different thoughts along the way. But when I became serious about it, okay, I'm doing this, I would have a thought and I would start writing that thought and it would lead to another memory that I didn't even have.
Wow.
You know, that I wasn't aware of that I had. And so it was so interesting. And so when you read the book, you can see how I'm writing about a memory that's happening to me and how another memory is jogged. And so for a moment, I'll skip to that memory that I'm having, and then I'll come back and finish that initial thought. But it was so healing. It was so liberating and so freeing because all these thoughts that created these deep emotions within me were able to be released. Because it became tangible and I was able to see, but my only goal in writing my story was to get it out there to help people that have gone through similar situations like myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it is really, really helpful. I mean, I'm sure in your coaching, you talk about journaling and you tell people to write things down, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. Tell us why that's so important.
Well, for me, I believe that when we make something come out of our minds and we can write it down, that right there is healing. And then we can go back and it becomes a tangible thing rather than just something floating around in space, so to speak, that no one else has power over anymore. It's just loses its power. It loses its validity because it becomes tangible. Does that make sense?
Totally. I totally agree. And all of my clients, we do the same things. And I encourage so much so to write down your thoughts and to get them recorded and get them so that you can actually view them in a detached way.
Right.
Like, I think that's,
yes.
Instead of being inside rambling around, torturing you at 3:00 in the morning, if you can get them out, then you can look at them objectively. It's not a part of you. It is a scene or it is a memory, but you can look at it and be detached from it and then figure out what the beliefs you've created because of all of that. That's the work that I'm always doing, the detective work. Okay, this happened. What's the story and what's the belief that you created? I'm sure you're doing something similar. Yeah, it's so important to do so. See, where is this belief? What is it that I believe? Where did it come from?
Where did it come from?
Right? And so when did you become a coach? When did you decide to become a coach and really start this work that you're doing now?
Okay, so being coach is a new thing for me. When I finished my book, I just thought, I felt like there was a void. Okay, so I've done this. This is out there. People will read it. Now what? What else can I do? And I was very prayerful about it. And what can I do? I really felt this huge, it was a need. It wasn't even a desire. It was a strong need that I needed to help people. Because the more people that I would talk to, the more people I realized had similar stories. Right. And a lot of them are stuck. You know, they're stuck back there 20, 30 years ago. And so I just was very prayerful about it. And literally in the middle of the night, I'm reading, and it just was this huge epiphany. You need to be a life coach. And at the time, I really wasn't familiar with what life coaching was. And because I think it gets all kinds of different names and definitions. And so I just started studying and researching, and I knew that that was a path that I could take that would be really, really helpful to so many people, that it wouldn't just end here at my book.
That's amazing. Very similar story to mine. I love the sharing of your story aspect, and because we have written it down and we have let it out for the world to read and judge, important do you think that is? You don't have to be an author.
No.
But talk about how it has helped other people just by sharing. Just for you, stop pretending that everything's fine.
Right.
Stop avoiding this big family secret that we're all ashamed of, but no, we don't talk about.
Right.
We all have something like that in our past. Everybody. Almost everybody. And it's so ingrained in our society, and I think it's even perpetrated more with social media, to share that highlight reel. Everybody's sharing the best of the best moments of the perfect life. And when you get everybody ready and you got the matching outfits for your kids, and we can fall into the trap of thinking that the highlight reel is real life. And then we're comparing our real life to the highlight reel. And I just would love to hear your thoughts about sharing, not to every stranger every day about all your childhood trauma, but finding somebody who you can trust and actually speaking about it, and how that helps with your healing, and how that's helped your client, you personally,
Yes.
This has helped so much for your healing, but because you have shared, I would love to hear more stories about how just sharing, then you find people that have similar situations. How do they feel after that?
Well, for my story, becoming vulnerable and being real is healing all on its own. You know, I thought by hiding it, that was getting me through, but it doesn't. It just keeps multiplying and getting harder and harder. And the moment I became vulnerable, because that was vulnerability at its largest for me, because for 50 years, I'm hiding this story, and then all of a sudden it's out there for everybody to see and know in the gory details.
Yes.
And I thought, okay, this is who I am. This is me. And so when I talk to people that come to me for coaching, there's a lot of people that don't want people to know that they don't have any self-esteem or self-confidence.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that they don't. And so we go there, just like you said, you know, being a detective, being curious, finding out, digging, where is this coming from? And once we become real with who we are, then we can allow the healing to start. And I just feel like I went to counseling a lot before I became real.
Same.
And it didn't help. And, you know, because I would go in there to counseling and would pretend. And I'd give them a little snippet here and there of what was going on, but nothing real, nothing raw. And the moment I decided that I was tired, I was exhausted, really physically and emotionally exhausted from carrying this burden around. And I wanted to just lay it all out there, good, bad, or otherwise, just lay it out there. That is when the healing started. It was only then that the healing started.
I'm curious, was it the same with the same therapist?
No.
You got a different one?
I had many therapists. I probably had 8 throughout my life.
So the one that you let it all hang out with, that was a new one. So it wasn't the same one. No. I'm always curious when we're not divulging like the real details, what's really going on. I always wonder if they know we're full of shit or not.
I bet they do.
I bet they do. They've seen a bunch of us, you know, they know when we're full of crap, right? And so you finally get this one. What was it something about the therapist, or was it something about you that you decided, I'm done, I'm just going to tell her how it is, or him?
Her. Yes, that was me. Yeah. I mean, I had been going to therapy for 20 years off and on, and nothing was getting better in my life because I was not being real. And I was still doing this facade, not as bad, not as majorly recovering, but I still was. I was not being real. And I drive that home in my book. If you want to be healed, if you truly want to get rid of whatever is holding you back once and for all, you have to be real. And it's okay. It's okay to be real, because that's how we help other people as well. Not only do we help ourselves, but like I tell my clients, because you're willing to be helped and you're willing to overcome this, and you're able to release this block, this thing that's holding you back, not only are you freed, but your children and your people that you associate with, you will have that conduit to help them as well.
Yes. And you can be the example of being honest.
Yes.
I think that's another thing that we don't always think about when we are healing and we are able to finally get to the point where we're vulnerable and we tell the truth. You know, where would we be if we had somebody who was that example for us when we were 18?
Correct.
We didn't have that example. And what could we have become? How could we have healed earlier? So maybe if, someone's listening to this and was like, man, I've really been struggling with the same stuff all the time, but I really don't want to tell anybody. I would just urge them to think about that. Who else could you help by just sharing? And so that then they go, whoever you're sharing with goes, oh my gosh, I can relate to that. I have been through something like that. Maybe I could be vulnerable, and then maybe other people could be healed just because of your example.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. I agree.
So the clients that you're working with, is it a challenge for you to help them be vulnerable and tell the truth? Or are they kind of coming to you going, all right, that's it. I'm done. I really need help. Is it both?
Well, a large portion of my clients know my story. They've either read my book or they've seen my social media or they know somebody that knows me. And so they kind of know my story. The ones that don't, I share with them because they come in and they tell me what it is that they want to overcome or build on or work on or grow from. And I'm usually raw right out of the gate because I want them to know that I can relate. And I know how to get through hard things. Because I absolutely do now. And I don't want people to take 20 years to get through it because it doesn't have to take that long.
Same. I love that. And in the sharing of itself, how do they feel? Like, what are the transformations that you've witnessed in sharing your crap and being vulnerable? Just would love to perhaps motivate somebody to do the work and just be honest. And it's okay. And probably if someone else listening has gone through something similar, if it's not the same thing, it's something similar, and you can literally heal. I'd love for you to share some stories about transformation, just in case there's someone listening and going, I just don't want to. I'm so ashamed. We have a lot of shame around the things, even the mistakes that we've made or some family secrets that we've had. What would you say to that?
I truly believe that we're not our past.
Yeah.
We aren't our thoughts. We're not our mistakes. We're not any of those. We're literally just going through a journey, experiencing different things to mold us into who we are so that we can benefit other people. Yeah. I mean, if we go through things in life and we don't use that to help someone else, it's such a waste.
Yeah, what's the point?
There is 0 point.
Yeah.
And I know that I knew that I was going to have these challenges before I came here. I just knew it. I know it now. I didn't, and I fought it, and I was angry. Why do I have to be in this family when X, Y, and Z has these loving families? Why did I have to go into this miserable family? But now I know, and I'm actually, it shifted, and I share this with my clients, how it shifted to where I no longer have angst or resentment or bitterness or any of those things. I actually feel privileged, and that's kind of strange to look at that way, but that I could come to a family where it stopped. That it didn't continue on generations down the line like it did with my father. He came from an abusive father who came from an abusive father. So it kept going, and I was like, no more. And so that's what I try to teach my clients, that they can be freed from these thoughts that are actually causing them to feel ashamed, feel embarrassed, feel like, these things have happened to them, but nothing's happened to us. It's just happened.
Right.
And once they grasp that concept, and they're willing to be raw like I was and lay it all out there, knowing that there's no, I don't even want to use the word shame, but it's all good. Everything is good when we're able to share the things that happen, because it's going to benefit someone. Even if it's one person, that's what I always said. If it just benefits one person, that they do not have to feel like I felt for decades, then yay.
Yay.
Mission accomplished.
100%. That's why I say about every podcast, if it helps one person, totally worth it.
Yes.
I say that a lot too. That's so funny. I love that. And what do you think are, in the clients that you worked with and in your own work, what are the challenges that are most common?
That people are trying to overcome? Self-esteem.
Yeah. Why do you think that we have such a huge challenge with self-esteem?
I feel like because we allow to attach emotions to all these thoughts that drag us down, instead of just realizing, okay, this happened. Yes, it's a fact. It's our circumstance, but it doesn't define me. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't change my worth. It doesn't change anything about Allison. Right. But that's what happens along the way when we go through life. We allow our circumstances and situations in our lives, things that people said, things that were done to us that we claim they were done to us, to affect us. Instead of, this just happened,
Yeah, just like we were saying before, we attach a meaning to it.
We do.
So something happened that was not ideal, not really what we wanted. And then we attach some kind of, that must mean that my level of worth just went down a notch, and then something else happened. Oh, I went down a notch again. And I struggle with this being a single mom for year after year after year after year. Well, I had all these beliefs that I had to work through. Nobody's going to want me with 2 kids. Nobody's going to want me because I'm this age, because of this circumstance, because of this debt, because all of these quote unquote, just like you said.
Right.
I love how you said the circumstances. We all have different circumstances, and it's ebbing and flowing. It's ever changing. So if you attach your identity to something that happened 20 years ago, that's not even relevant. It's not even happening now. You can cause yourself so much suffering.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, we take other people's words as truth.
Yeah.
When it's really, if someone's trying to demean us, it's really just a reflection on how they feel about themselves. And once I came to that understanding, that was such a vital tool for my grandchildren. When people are unkind, because kids are mean. They just are. At school, they're just mean. But once they understand that, and we can shift it to when someone's unkind, or even someone driving down the road maybe is belligerent, or in the grocery store line, or wherever we are, instead of taking offense to it and just shifting our thoughts to, oh, I wonder what's going on in their day. They must really be having a hard time right now.
That's so smart. It's so helpful. I think it was Brene Brown that says imagination is the antidote for, how does she word it? It's the antidote for that. The having a belief that's a negative belief of something that's happening, just using your imagination and just say, gosh, I wonder what happened. Gosh, I wonder if they have really struggling with something, or geez, I wonder if they just got some really bad news.
Right.
Maybe there's a reason why they're in a hurry. And, maybe they're going to the hospital because somebody had a car accident. And just using your imagination is such a great tool. Like, sounds like that's what you're teaching that, and like helping people. How about we look at other things it could be? I love that. It's really helped me a lot, and my clients as well. What are some of the other things that you see as the top struggles? So it's self-worth. Almost everything comes down to a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-worth, but not everything. What are some of the other challenges?
I have quite a few that deal with fear based on they don't want to go through something that's caused them so much pain again. So they have fear that this is going to happen again. And, you know, fear is debilitating.
It is.
You know, it prevents us from doing a lot of things. And it really prevents us from being our best selves, you know, if we let fear get in the way. And so I try to help people overcome that and not attach it to, because every situation is different. And it doesn't mean because we went through a situation that caused us a great deal of pain that we're going to have that again. We'll probably have something different that may cause us pain, you know, depending on what we attach to it. And see, it's all that. It's all based on what thoughts we attach to it that are going to keep us in that fear mode, that pain mode, that setting in our brains. And I was always terrified of flying. Terrified of flying. I mean, I'm the gal on the plane that takes Valium. And so we went on a vacation, and my husband wanted to do one of those little float planes that takes you out over the mountains and everything. And there was no way I was getting on this float plane. But then I thought to myself, how can I teach people how to overcome their fears and not let this fear hold them back from enjoying and having a fulfilling life if I'm not willing to do that for myself? And so I got on that float plane, and it was a little 6-seater, and it was the most exhilarating, really, time of my life, because I'm not a daredevil. I'm not courageous and adventurous, but it kind of reset things for me. And once we can step out of that comfort zone that we block ourselves into to prevent, because we put walls up. Oh, I'm not going there because I don't want to experience fear or pain or discouragement. Once we let that wall come down and realize it's okay, no matter what happens, we're going to be okay. Right. We survive things, we overcome things, we grow from things, and we will with this situation as well.
Yeah. How did you change the thoughts? So when you picture a float plane, I'm going to imagine you're thinking that's death. I'm going to crash. Because our beliefs and our actions are determined by the words we say about stuff and then the picture in our mind. So your picture, I'm just guessing. Yes. Please let me know if this is correct. People who don't like to fly, they're not in control. They can't control whether the pilot is going to die or the wing's going to fly off. This is what you're imagining.
Right.
Correct?
Chris, correct.
And so the only way to overcome that is to change the words and the pictures in your brain. So how did you turn that around to, I'm not going to focus on an explosion at the bottom of a mountain or a lake, or whatever you're flying over, I guess float plane. So was it the ocean? Yeah, the lake, ocean. And because I just did a helicopter tour in Maui last year. I had to actually change the words and change the pictures. It's completely safe. Like, walk us how you did that, so other people who are dealing with the same types of phobias or other phobias can do the same.
Yes, and that's exactly what I had to do, because forever people would ask me, why are you afraid of flying? I'm not afraid of flying. I'm afraid of crashing. Yes. That's what I'm afraid of. And so I'm thinking, this float plane has all the ability to just crash, you know, and we would be crashing either into a mountain or into the big ocean. Yeah. And I wanted no part of that. But I didn't want to be a downer. We were with a group of people. They were all wanting to go. And I thought, I am not going to be this snag in the wheel. And so I did. I had to, instead of focusing my thoughts on what could happen, you know, the engine could die, we could have failure, the winds could be so strong that it's going to make us crash, or whatever. The pilot's not skilled like he claims he is. Yeah. I mean, there's a long list of things that I can put out there that could go wrong. I did. I was like, you know what? This guy's been doing it for a really long time. He knows exactly what he's doing. I would watch planes coming in and out, and it was smooth. And so I would tell myself, this is smooth. This is glorious. I'm not going to be able to see things how I want to see them as far as the scenery and the beauty around. We were in Alaska, unless I do this. And so all my thoughts shifted to positive, that our takeoff will be smooth. I'll get to see, you know, the whales out in the ocean, the beautiful waterfalls, the glaciers, and we're going to land smoothly. I thought about all the good things that in reality, that's what happens. That's really the outcome. And I didn't allow my brain to go there, to the negative, to the scary. I just didn't allow it. It tries, because that's what I was programmed to do.
Totally.
And so as soon as a negative thought would come in that would bring a little anxiety up, even while I'm on that plane, I would shift it. Nope. And I would just like, oh, look at how beautiful this is. It's not even loud in here. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody seems relaxed. You can be relaxed too. And so I would just take some great breaths, and I'd look out my window. I'd take pictures. Sometimes I would sing if it got, it started getting a little bumpy. I started getting a little nervous. I would just sing a song in my brain, in my mind, and it took my focus off the fear. When I focused on all the good things that I was experiencing, and prior to that I was going to experience, then it took the focus off the fear.
What song did you sing?
I'm LDS. I don't know if you know that or not, but the song that always comes to my mind is "I Am a Child of God," and I'm like, that's the song that always comes into my head if I'm ever afraid. That's what I sing.
Oh, I love that. It's a good song. I love it. So that's also called reframing, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
so you have, we all have some habitual thoughts. And whatever we believe is just a thought that we've had over and over and over again until we believe it as fact. And I love, this is so helpful for just anybody trying to do this work on their own. And obviously get a coach or a therapist if you're really struggling with this, and we'd love to help. And there's so many things you can do on your own. And that's what I wanted to share just in the short amount of time that we have together, in case somebody is listening and struggling, and they might not be ready for a coach, or they might not be ready, or they might not have the resources. I love that tool. That alone can really help you do the things that you might not want to do. Right? There's some kind of a block, those fears and phobias. What are some of the other tools that are really helpful that you can easily do in your own bedroom, in your own life, and take 10, 15 minutes? I like things to be easy, because it's just, it takes away that block of, I don't have time, I've got so many things going on. It's like, what's a great tool that you could share that doesn't take tons of time, that's really, really, really helpful for people, just like that, reframing those beliefs?
I think meditation is extremely valuable. Just for me, when I know that I am up against something big that's happening, I have a lot of clients that have a huge fear of speaking, getting in front of people and speaking. And so I try to help them. Number one, it's all about being prepared when you're going to speak, but, and that kind of eliminates all that fear and anxiety. But to sit and meditate, it can be for 5 minutes. Just find a quiet, and this is so helpful for me, just to find a quiet spot in my home, or I could even be in my car. As long as it's quiet and I'm there by myself, I can just meditate, and I can do these cleansing breaths that really just resets my focus. It resets my mind. It just kind of is this warm calming that comes over me, that it just washes away all the worries and the doubts that creep in, that we're not capable of doing, that these thoughts came and telling us that, and my clients, you're not capable of this. And then as I'm meditating, I kind of do these affirmations in my mind about my capabilities and my journey and the things that I have overcome, and I'm continuing to grow and continuing to progress. And I can overcome this as well, whatever that block may be that they're going through. Just kind of reprogramming our minds, because depending on the length of time that we have allowed our minds to be in charge of this negative program, it may take a little longer depending, but sometimes it can just go really quickly depending on how determined and how focused we are to reset that.
Yeah. When you do your own meditations, do you have something you're listening to, or do you put music on, or is it silent? How do you do it?
No, I have music. And it's different every time, but it's always just instrumental. It's kind of like what you would hear maybe in an elevator or when you're doing yoga. It's very, very soothing. There's no words because I don't want any words to come into my brain. And it's just peaceful.
Calm. Yeah. I have a calm playlist on Spotify.
Right,
do you have one too?
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a little tension. Press play. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Super helpful. Also, do you recommend, or have you had clients record their own affirmations, or record the thoughts that they want to strengthen? Have you ever done that, or you ever recommend doing that?
I have not.
Yeah,
no.
I can't remember who was forever ago, and I wish I could remember who that was. Our beliefs are strengthened if it's in our own voice.
Yes.
Because it's that, I call it the bitch voice. Sorry for my language. But, it's like, I used to call it the inner bitch. It's the one telling you all the negative thoughts that are not true. And so, but they're there, but it's in your own voice. And so I wish I could remember who it was that was said. And I used to do that. I don't do it anymore, but I would record the thoughts that I am working on strengthening, the truth, the facts, in your own voice, because it's so much more, quote unquote, more powerful. I was just curious if you ever did that.
And then to listen to that
I listened to it. I played it when I was going. I did it on my voice notes, and I would play it when I was driving around if the kids weren't in the car. My kids are small.
I love that.
It's awesome.
I have my clients do mirror work, where they stand in the mirror. Because like I said, I deal with a lot of women, and we are so hard on ourselves that we're not worthy, and we don't have any worth, or their self-esteem is plummeted for one reason or another. Yeah. And to look in the mirror, and I did this years ago, I would stand in the mirror, and it's really, you kind of geek out about it, and you feel really uncomfortable, and and that's why I would always be by myself, so I had no judgment from anyone else.
It is uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I'm standing there in the mirror, usually in my bathroom, and I say, Allison, I love you. I really, really love you. And then anytime throughout the day, if I would walk by a vehicle that had a reflection in their window or a store window or anything, I would say that again. And it's powerful when you can say it out loud. And at first, your brain's like, oh, yeah, right. You are super weird.
It's dumb. Yeah.
But then it starts believing it.
Yeah.
And then I would walk a little taller and more confident and more confident. And it really is transforming. And same with affirmations, saying them, like you said, in your own voice, saying them out loud, looking at yourself and believing the things that you're saying.
What do you say when people don't believe it and they're just starting out?
Well, most people don't believe it.
They don't. That's the thing. No one believes it at first.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, that's probably true for somebody else, but not for me.
Exactly.
I just try to help them overcome that. They're down at the bottom of the mountain. They just need to get up and get over it.
Yeah.
And that you have to start baby steps. And it's okay if you don't believe it at first. You just have to start. Start telling yourself positive things about yourself, because I know that it's true. And other people in your life know that it's true. And for some reason or another, your brain is lying to you.
Yes. And which is funny, because Marissa Peer's book is Tell Yourself a Better Lie. You're already lying. If you're saying you're not worth it, then that's a lie. So tell yourself a better one.
Absolutely.
I love that. And that is basically the same thing, but you're saying it out loud, and you're hearing your own voice say it, and you're saying, do it in a mirror. Yes. I love that. I was going to say one other thing. The mind learns by repetition.
Yes.
Just think about how we learned anything. We didn't learn from doing it once. How do we learn how to walk? How do we learn how to talk? How do we learn how to sing, play an instrument, whatever it is, learn a language? The only way is to do it by repetition. So if you're not feeling it the first day, the first 20 days, the first 40, it doesn't matter how many days. It's the only way to learn. So we're just learning a new skill. So I'd like to think of it that way. Just your mind learn. The only way you can learn something is repetition, repetition, repetition. So just keep at it.
Absolutely. Practice makes progress, right?
I know. It's so true.
Yeah.
Very hard when you're first starting out But I think if you just keep reinforcing that what you're doing will have a huge impact, it's a long game. It's not a short game. Mm-mm. You're not getting fixed over one day or one meeting, one affirmation, 1 minute in front of the mirror. It's just one step, like you say.
That's right.
One little step at a time.
Yes, because we didn't get this way overnight either.
We sure didn't. Took a couple decades.
Yes.
Oh, it's so great. I'm so happy to finally meet you. I'm so glad you came down. You're here locally. Are you born and raised in Arizona?
I am. I'm an Arizona native.
Wow. Where'd you go to high school?
Mesa High.
No way.
Yes.
That's what my dad went there, and my husband went to Mesa High.
Yeah.
He's a lot older than
Go Jackrabbits.
Go Mesa. I live in Gilbert now. Are you in Queen Creek now?
I'm in Queen Creek.
Yeah, so just down the street,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
It didn't take you very
10
long
minutes.
to get here? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're like right on the edge of Queen Creek.
Yes.
Well, Allison, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom and being vulnerable. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
This is going to be great. It's going to help a lot of people. And make sure you get her book. It's called The Chain Breaker. It stopped with me because you can also break the chain of the generational trauma, the secrets, the abuse, whatever you've been through, you can break the chain.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And listeners, anybody who's listening, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting my show. Or if you're on YouTube, thanks for watching. And just remember that you can create the life that you love. Just take it one day at a time. And wait, I forgot. Let's tell our listeners how they can find you.
AllisonWoodCoaching.com.
Nice. And you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, Allison Wood Coaching. Everything's Allison Wood Coaching.
Allison Wood Coaching with 2 L's.
Yes.
Sometimes Allison is with 1 L.
That's true.
But I'll put all of her links. I'll put them all in the show notes. Thanks again. God bless you. Have a great day. Thank you for being here and listening to my show. If you got any value at all, it would mean the world if you shared it and left a review. Remember, the only way to create the life you love is to take it one day at a time. Create today. God bless you.